Auzzy Blood, thanks a lot for doing this. How are you?
I'm great.
How did you come up with the name Auzzy Blood, and what does it mean?
So my real name's Austin Punton. So obviously the Austin Powers jokes were a big thing for me as a kid. So when I started becoming a performer, I didn't want that association. And I was actually given the nickname Auzzy in high school because I was the weird metalhead kid. And my friend Brianne always called me Auzzy, A-U-Z-Z-Y, Blood. Mainly it just came out of nowhere. And then the Blood version came later on, adding that. They called me Auzzy Boots sometimes because of the big boots I would wear in high school. But the Blood came out because of being a phlebotomist and connected to the certified medical assistant field, and actually wanting to just associate that graphic nature of what I'm doing and the association of pain, blood, and the graphic nature of what I had to do to stretch out my sinuses. It just kind of fit.
What was your childhood like, where did you grow up?
So I grew up in a very strange city known as Hesperia, technically on the outskirts of Oak Hills in California. It's a connective area of 3 different towns, Hesperia, Victorville, and the Apple Valley, and it's known as the High Desert. And basically, I got out of that city as an adult, moving here to Las Vegas, mainly because there was nothing there. It's a small desert town. I grew up on a dirt road. Had a really interesting childhood, being an only child. I was my parents' only kid, and I had a lot of freedom. I would say I was a spoiled child, but it also made me more resilient to want to work hard for the things I wanted in life, because that's what my dad did, and that's what he told me to do as a kid growing up. So I don't know, I had a really cool childhood where I got to ride ATVs and go out and explore and do different things. Boating here at Lake Mead, we'd come down a lot and take the boat out. But yeah, I just had a really cool explorative childhood where I wasn't told to believe any one specific thing. I didn't go to church growing up as a kid. I don't know, I just had a really interesting and fun childhood.
Was your parents risk takers? Were they pretty conservative? Was your dad like riding motorcycles, ATVs, doing big jumps, or where did you get that?
So it's a funny thing with my dad. My dad has always selectively been a motorhead or gearhead, whatever you want to call association with anything mechanical or machinery. He used to have his Jeep. He used to do go-kart racing as a kid. And then later, what's funny is when he became an adult, he started becoming a TBM mechanic. Started with him working on diesel trucks, and then he grafted into getting into one of the unions, I think it's Local 12, and that allowed him to pick up machinery. So he became a TBM mechanic, which is a tunnel boring machine mechanic. He actually did a lot of the work on Lake Mead. So they had to tunnel, 600 feet down and 2 miles under Lake Mead. So yeah, my dad's definitely a risk taker. He's the guy welding up on big steam barriers and these things they would do to build the tunnel with no harness. Like a crazy person. So yeah, my dad's definitely a risk taker. He always would, just be fearless when it came to crazy and weird situations. I look up to my dad a lot for those reasons.
Do you think you got that from your father?
Probably. I used to be afraid of roller coasters as a kid, is the funny thing. And the fear was broken when I actually went to Six Flags and rolled Gold Rusher, and then realized there was nothing to be afraid of, because obviously if people are going on these things, they're safe. And then it slowly escalated from there with different adrenaline situations. And then I got really into trying to jump my quad, and then I crashed that thing and smacked my face all up. And then, when I became an adult, I had an experience of working at a haunted house, and they have this experience called the victim experience. And it's basically their R-rated haunt where you have to sign a waiver through, but with extreme amounts of unconditional torture. It's tolerable to a level of this isn't something extremely dangerous. There's safety precautions on every level. It's not like McKamey Manor where they mess you up, but it was this intense experience where you went through being buried alive and a variety of other things I'm not allowed to talk about because I'm on NDA. But it was just this intense experience, and I wanted to do it after working the haunt, mainly to just test myself and see what I was capable of. I was scared going into it, but I did that and came out on the other side with surviving without saying the safe word, and it just changed my perspective of what fear was for me. And then slowly after that is when I started to teach myself sideshow stunts.
So you were scared of heights, and you weren't taking a lot of risks. How do you go from that to, I'm going to swallow a sword, I'm going to stuff things in my nose? What's the process like to get to there? Because I don't like thinking about anything down my throat.
Yeah.
So how can you walk me through what that's like?
It was a variety of synchronistic experiences. So it was growing up with Ripley's Believe It or Not and Guinness Book of World Records, and having that association of, like, as a kid, I wanted to break a world record. Even if it was something as stupid as, like, building the largest Jenga tower or eating ice cream in a mass amount. Like, I just wanted to do it because I thought it was interesting and cool. And then growing up in 2011, I was out in Huntington Beach. I saw my first sword swallower for the first time. And it was just this guy doing street performance. He hammered a nail into his nose, and then he swallowed a sword really slowly, and that was just awe-inspiring because it was real. You saw right there was no illusion, there was no trickery. You saw the blade go down his throat, disappear into his body, and then come back out, and he was still alive. So then I saw that same performer years later on a television show. That was inspiring even more, because I'm like, oh my gosh, that was the guy I saw.
In the mouth, and you swallow it.
Connected the dots, and then I read a book he wrote called The Metaphorical Suicide. It's about killing everything that isn't you to become your best version. So kind of through those periods of different synchronistic experiences, like the haunted house, seeing all that other stuff throughout my childhood, it gave me these little seeds of inspiration along the way that were like, well, I attached this stuff for some reason. I attached to it. And then also with slowly becoming an adrenaline junkie more and more into my adulthood, it was just like, I just wanted to challenge myself to see if I could do different things. And then also being in the medical field of having background, I went to school to be a certified medical assistant and phlebotomist. Along the way, all those experiences led me to go, well, this is the life I'm living. I'm going to work for a doctor right now. I'm going to work in the medical field, but do I want to do that for the rest of my life? Or do I want to have an adventure while I'm young, dumb, and 18? So that's when I started teaching myself stunts, and it kind of transitioned into, like I said, going through those synchronistic experiences that changed my association with fear, who I was as a person, how to express myself. Because I used to be really afraid of expressing myself because of people judging me. Even though I was still goth or alternative, I was like really conservative of that. And then that's, I guess, where the makeup comes in, because that's allowing my full expression and freedom of self. Does that make sense?
Yeah, sure does.
I go on rambles sometimes because that's just how my brain works. I have trouble kind of forming certain sentences and picking words because my brain's always so full of information all at once. It just wants to come out, and it has like this discombobulated way of organizing itself.
I get it. I go through the same thing. Just ask my girlfriend. So you saw the performer swallow the sword. How did you work up to that? Did you read books on swallowing swords? Did you just say, I'm going to stick a sword down my throat?
So when I started teaching myself sideshow stunts, obviously with the blockhead routine, that's easy. You're just learning how to stick a nail in your nose. You're desensitizing your sinuses from sneezing. And then with the sword, if you actually watch the Venice Beach Freak Show television show that was on AMC, they show you how to swallow a sword. And you start off with a coat hanger. And so you take a coat hanger, you straighten it out to where your hook is up here, and that's your handle. And then you got that round curved end, and you make it straight as possible. And you probe that past your epiglottis over and over and over again until you're able to swallow it maybe 10 times or more in a row consistently and not gag or not have any discomfort. If you can bend at the waist, then that's even showing more control. And then when you're comfortable with that, you find a sword, you alter it to be swallowable, and then you start practicing with that.
While you were practicing that, did you have a lot of mishaps where you were like, you wake up the next day and like, oh shit, I probably shouldn't have done that? Or was it smooth sailing?
So I learned how to swallow a sword in 10 months being all self-taught, besides doing my research on whatever I looked up through searching on Google, whatever videos were online on YouTube, and then coming across that episode of the Venice Beach Freak Show. So then it was a process of like, the first time I ever attempted it, I threw that coat hanger back in the closet and I said never again. And then weeks passed by and I was like, I can't give up that easily. It's not like a one and done. So I tried again. I didn't vomit much in my early stages. I guess I have pretty good control over actually expiling or exporting the bile from my stomach. I don't know. But yeah, it was a process of like 10 months. And then there was one time I started doing it with street performance out on the strip, just as a way to engage and kind of get past the fear of it. Also with being in front of an audience, you kind of have more adrenaline flowing and it makes it easier to make your body do stuff. So I would do it out street performing. And then one time I accidentally forced it after trying 3 times. And I was stuck in bed with a really swollen esophagus for like 3 days and constant soreness, vomiting. Thankfully, there was no blood, or else I would have had to go to the hospital. Might have punctured something. But thankfully, I didn't. So after that, I took about a break for maybe a week or 2, and then I started trying with the sword again. Because previously I had a sword, but it almost felt too heavy. It's like that weight between a sword and a coat hanger so intensely different. It makes that fear come back into your mind because you're putting something that shouldn't belong in your body, and it's about conditioning that mental aspect. So it was not a one and done or just a quick process. It was literally a process of overcoming layers of fear, training the association of touch and sense with your body to putting it to your mouth and everything like that. It was such an intense, continuous process, and still to this day, I'm still learning new techniques of how to put it in an easier way.
When you put the sword in, I've watched it. You look like you keep your chest straight.
Yeah.
Everything. As it's going down, I've even seen like your girlfriend and other people put the sword in.
Mm-hmm.
How do you know when the stopping point is? Does it just like hit something and stop? Or is the sword a certain length where it only goes that far? Because it seems like you could go too far and come out the other end. If I, to be really
shockingly
honest.
You can't, unless I have a sword that's probably longer than 24 to 26 inches. It's not going to reach the bottom of my stomach. Most people don't know that. The Association of Sword Swallowers saying it's going to the pit of our stomach is more of a gag reel that we're using verbally to build up the suspense, and it's the showmanship with it. But realistically, it's just right about below my diaphragm in the navel area, so it's actually reaching the LES, which is known as the lower esophageal sphincter, which is right in that opening of the stomach, and you can feel it hit that. So I actually have a buddy I've worked with before. We used to work in Cirque du Soleil together, Andrew. He can swallow, I don't know the length of sword, it's over 23 inches, and he can swallow it all the way down to his pelvic bone. He gets it past the lower esophageal sphincter, maneuvers, gets it to the bottom of his stomach. He can push right here on it, and he can even stick a magnet to where it pushes, and you can see the sword going up and down. So there is a stopping point at the bottom. It takes a long sword to get there, but like when other people are putting it in, there's kind of a few layers that they have to push past. So there's the top layer, which is the upper esophageal sphincter. It's the epiglottis, that flappy bit between your esophagus and trachea. And then you have the thoracic chamber, which is where your heart is. It's not in the esophagus, but obviously it rests in that area up front of your esophagus. So you literally have to push past your heart and lungs into that lower area of the esophagus, and that you kind of have to feel and nudge past it. Sometimes I'll be at a weird position and it won't want to go, and if you feel like it's not going to go and the sword just doesn't move itself, then you could be puncturing into my heart. Thankfully that's never happened. But yeah, that's mainly the main things that you need to watch it with going too far with a sword, I would say.
You brought up something. As it's going down, do you how do I explain this or describe this? When you feel it going down, do you feel it hitting like your organs, like maybe going past your heart?
Yeah, I feel it slide past my heart every time. It's a specific point. Literally, once I'm past my heart, I can feel the entire blade vibrating to my heartbeat. Because my heartbeat is, if I swallow a sword right now and focused it on the camera right now, you would literally see it going. You'd be able to take my heartbeat with the sword, so to speak, just by watching it.
That is crazy.
Yeah. So I feel it. I sometimes if I have too much air in my lungs and I take too deep of a breath, I can feel the sword pushing against my lungs. So I feel it.
Do you have to keep a certain diet and stay away from like alcohol or spicy foods or anything?
No, I don't keep a certain diet. I eat mostly vegan, vegetarian-based, plant-based, I would say. I'll cheat with like sushi and some dairy, but I've been lactose intolerant since birth. So I don't have to keep a specific diet. I just do because I want to stay healthier throughout my longevity of life. It probably helps that I don't drink alcohol, because I've heard of a lot of other sword swallowers that do drink. They have a lot of acid reflux problems, probably because their body is, I don't know, not processing it the same, maybe because of, I personally, I don't know. It's on a subject to subject basis, and that's not ever something I've dealt with. I've even had doctors that have like talked to me about it. This one doctor I've worked with who's actually examined my esophagus for some medical study he did with intubation. He used to ask me, he's like, "Do you get heartache or like heartburn often?" I'm like, "No, shockingly I don't." It's like strange. You'd think with the blade moving past it and causing that, it could cause a buildup of scar tissue, is what he said, from the pressure of it passing each time. And he's like, which could cause irritation like heartburn over time. I don't get any of that.
Do you have doctors reaching out to you, or have you done a lot of medical studies? Because I mean, it's uncommon what you're doing with the sword.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't want to do that. I know a lot of people don't want to do it. A lot of people are interested, but have doctors reached out to you and said, "Hey, we should do some scans," or anything like that?
I've had, again, the one doctor, Nate, who I met through a fellow performer. He's known as like the Cirque doctor. He's getting one of his doctorates for something specifically right now, and so part of his schooling is like working at Circus Center. He's really the only person I've worked with. I've always wanted to get an x-ray of a sword and a hook in my face, just because that's really cool. There's other performers that have done it, obviously, because the technology's been around for a very long time, but I think it'd be interesting to do it with my saw blades. I have this stack of 4 serrated saws right here that I swallow all at the same time. So as you can see, as I swallow them, there's actually serrated edges that can stick out from the edges of the swords. And yeah, I can imagine what that would look like inside my esophagus, because I feel them going up and down the rings of my esophagus as I pull them in and out. But I think, so the interesting experience I've had with doctors is a lot of them want to study it, but they don't have the area to do it, and by that, the environment, because a lot of them are worried about insurance. If I get hurt on their watch, that's scary to them, and that's an insurance claim, or somebody getting sued by a lawyer for whatever. So that's actually the problem I had with that one medical study I was doing, where they were examining my esophagus with an ultrasound, and then I was basically shoving an endoscope down my own throat, all on my own through my nose, and they wouldn't let me swallow a sword at the college because it was a liability issue. And even though they had planned all this and they were going to let me, it said nothing metal. They wouldn't let me swallow anything metal. Again, just liability. So I think that's why I don't have more doctors on larger occasions reaching out, because it's just such a liability thing, and they don't want anything to do with it.
Maybe one way around is like, "Hey, I'm going to come in in about an hour, and I'm gonna have a sword in my throat. Maybe you could just take some CT scans of that.
I would love it. If there's a doctor out there that wants to reach out and do some medical study, please reach out. We can do whatever you want. I will sign a waiver, and let's make it happen, because I think science can persistently advance if we had more understanding of how much the human body can evolve through. Obviously, we exercise and work out, so if you can examine that through something like I'm doing, it could have a lot of medical uses if you really think about it.
Let's take a quick break.
Okay, cool.
This episode is sponsored by Cemetery Pulp.
My name is Chris Commit, owner of Cemetery Pulp. We are oddities and comic book store. You know, we have skulls, we have dead things in jars, we have D&D, we have comics, you know, we have taxidermy, we have big giant mounts in the wall. We're for the weird and nerdy. You know, we have a lot of weird, we have a lot of nerdy. Every day is different. It's never the same thing, ever. I love the comics, I love the D&D, I love the wet specimens, I love the skulls. You know, I love when I get new things. You know, when I find pieces that I wouldn't normally see, when I get things from estate sales that are really weird and old. I love discovering things every day.
What was your first real performance that you felt? Was it when you went out to the street and you were doing street performance, or what do you consider like the first real Auzzy Blood performance?
Definitely doing street performance. Street performance is one of the hardest types of... Is it good?
Mm-hmm.
Street performing is one of the hardest types of performance that is out there, and people need to give it more respect, because when I started, it was scary, and there's just so much that goes into it. So yeah, I would say December of 2014, this is when I took my first attempt at street performing, and boy is it insane. I don't know where to start. There's so many factors of like the intimidation of having all these other people out there, and then the amount of people that come up to you and ask you for drugs because you're the weird guy in makeup shoving things up his nose. So yeah, I would, no matter what, I did theater in high school, and that is easy compared to doing street performance, because it's just so much. You have to try and force people to keep attention to what you're doing, and you have to try and drag them in, and then you have to try and figure out a way to extract money from them if you want to be profitable for the night of going out, driving out to the Strip or Fremont Street. Oh my goodness. So yeah, it's insane going out there. Especially, you also have the fear factor of, like, I've had people try to rob me. I've had people try to steal my gear. It's crazy.
That was on Fremont Street that you started?
Yeah, I started out on Fremont Street while I was working for a doctor at the time too, and we were doing, I worked at a place where we did lower lumbar and basic cervical and lower lumbar rehabilitation through decompression.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So you saw a lot of that, and...
Yeah. Those were my days. Fremont was my night.
How did your coworkers respond to what you were doing?
So the funny thing is, I was, as usual, I'm always the weird guy wherever I go. It was even like that in high school. But at this spine and joint place I worked, I was definitely the weird guy, because I was taking videos of myself, and I'd show them to patients of, like, look what I'm teaching myself to do. And the patients would get a kick out of it. They loved it. They loved hearing what Auzzy was up to, what new thing Auzzy was trying to shove down his throat. My coworkers were weirded out by it. My doctor tolerated it, I would say. And yeah, I was just the weird guy. It was kind of a funny situation.
So you were performing on Fremont and doing all that. What was the next big thing that happened?
Let's see. So, even under being under 21, living in Vegas, I was able to perform at bars. So I did like a couple burlesque shows were some of my first gigs, and then a couple metal events. And then it was like the very big first breakthrough gig I did was in 2016. They had Ozfest meets Knotfest when Black Sabbath had just released their album and was starting to do a New World Tour. They hired a bunch of sideshow performers to come and perform out in this area, and it was held by somebody I'm no longer talking to, so I don't want to say his name. But yeah, he brought out at least 60 to 80 sideshow performers and had this area to where we were performing. I even got to perform for a few of the Slipknot band members. That's actually how I came across meeting Suicide Silence. And so yeah, we went through that experience, and that was like a big breakthrough because it was 2 days of performing for 12 hours a day of doing sideshow here and there throughout whenever you had a crowd, basically. It was intense. It's a lot of fun.
When you're performing 12 hours a day, I mean, everybody gets tired. Like if you stand 12 hours a day, your legs are gonna get tired. What does that do to your insides when you're swallowing a sword that long? And
well, thankfully that day I actually wasn't swallowing swords because there's a specific amount of things they had hired me for, like blockhead and the meat hook thing I do. So I wasn't swallowing swords, but definitely from screaming at the crowd, from having to just be out in the sun and do all that, I was sore and raw after the entire weekend. I had put my body through something I never expected to, and it messed me up. I was so tired and sore after that first weekend of actually being like, okay, maybe I overdid it. The second day of the festival, I had completely lost my voice, so I wasn't speaking at all because the first day, you're screaming at the crowd, you're getting people to come over, you're barking basically, or talking, and it was just nonstop. So yeah, I was beaten up after that first weekend at Ozfest meets Knotfest.
we talked about the sword swallowing. You're sticking stuff up your nose and out of your throat. What was the process of learning how to do that?
So being in the medical field and having that knowledge of the human anatomy, most people think it's up the nose. It's not actually up. It's actually straight back. It goes straight back to your soft palate. And the process that is you start off with a small object like, a normal like 5-inch nail that you'd use in woodworking. And then you get desensitized to where you can put that in and out, no problem. Then you learn how to control hammering it in by, how you control the depth of how hard you squeeze the nail and how hard you hit it with the hammer. If you notice a lot of other sideshow performers, they'll like tap, 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 tap real lightly, while I'm like, car, 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 and it's because that showmanship, again, I want to make it look intense. I want to hit that thing hard, no matter how hard it goes in the back of my face. And then when I started doing things like 1/4-inch thick bolts, it was a process of, again, slowly inserting it and then getting to a point to where you can feel it hitting different cartilage and tissues, and you would have to push it past that, and then you feel this intense like tightness, and then after a while the tightness starts to dissipate. It's almost like gauging your ears, but it's an internal thing that you can't see. Does that make sense?
Sure. What's the pain threshold like when you're doing that?
Do you want like a 1 to 10 scale of like how a doctor would ask, is your pain a 1 to a 10? Or do you want like a description of what the pain feels like?
Both.
Okay, so I would say on my personal pain scale of like a 1 to a 10, 1 being like, ow, I stubbed my toe, a 10 being like, oh my gosh, get me to the hospital, I just got shot and my arm is going numb. I would say it's about a 1 to a 2. It's such a light sensation. It's almost like when you get smacked in the face, but like internally, and more of a sharp shooting pain with light dullness afterwards. I really like using pain descriptors. Thanks to the medical field for that.
So it sounds like almost like giving yourself a shot. Like the first, when it's breaking the skin, it's like, oh shit. And then once it gets in there, it's kind of numb.
Yeah, and very dull. Except, and there's a very, I would know from piercing myself, there's a very different sensation of feeling skin break versus just scraping past it with a piece of metal.
So you're sticking hooks in there,
mm-hmm.
and then you have, I've seen chains and weight, mm-hmm. right? Or am I
No,
right?
you're right.
And how long does it take you to build up to that? And does it mess up your neck?
I probably have the neck issues I do because of how much weight I've lifted with my face just from my nose, from a hook in my nose. I started out with small amounts of weight, like, I don't know, just wads of chain. The easiest thing I had lying around that was weight was my dad always had spare chain and these big links, like toe chain links, like this thick. So I would just wad that up, put a shackle through it, and then see if I could lift it. And then that's kind of how that started is, okay, let's add more chain. And then I got to the point where I was testing it out and doing it with a 50-pound barbell. So I've lifted 50 pounds with just my face and swung it around. So it was a process of just, again, testing, trying here and there. And then there's the other thing I swing from my face, which is a running circular saw. So I started up, the trigger is zip tied, and then I put the battery in, and I attach it to the hook, hold it in, insert the hook, and then I let it go, and I swing it. So it's almost like I'm dancing with a circular saw.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's not something I do in my free time.
No, not everybody.
Not everybody.
To my knowledge, I'm the only person in the world that does it currently. There's one other performer that's done it, but he doesn't perform much anymore.
Have you messed up? Have you messed up and like, oh shit, I cut myself?
With the saw?
Yeah.
No, I've never cut myself with a saw. I did drop it on my dad's carpet once, and it was like, let's get around across the carpet, tearing it up. Thankfully, it wasn't that bad. But yeah, thankfully, in my entire career as a performer, I've never been to the hospital in a decade of performing. And as the saying goes in my career, it's not if, it's when. So hopefully, I can keep that when from never happening. But yeah,
That's
it's unpredictable.
So you were doing this when you were living with your dad? Then?
Yeah.
And what was his reaction when you're like having a saw hanging from your, hey dad, check this out?
Well, it didn't move up to the saw. So it started off with me, doing the street performance and nails and fire breathing. Fire breathing is one of the first things I taught myself, which is actually controversial. Don't ever teach yourself fire breathing. I was stupid. I made mistakes. I thought I was a cool kid. There's no such thing as being a cool kid. Get a professional to teach you, learn all the steps with fire safety, because that's something that I didn't do. I didn't regret it. I didn't suffer an injury, but there's a lot that could have gone wrong because I was doing stuff very haphazardly, and I regret that. I'm going to own up to that. Accountability is important. But yeah, so it started off with fire breathing, and then it moved to me like eating glass, nails in the nose, and then I told him I'm going to like staple money to my body. I'm going to get people to staple money my body with a stapler while I'm out doing street performance. And he was just like, what the hell is wrong? Oh, this is a phase. What is my kid doing? And then he started seeing me bring home big wads of cash from Fremont Street, and I would do like First Friday sometimes too. And he would see me coming home, and he'd be like, okay, if you're going to do this, we're going to do this right. And he started actually double checking the equipment I was using to make sure it was safe, because there's some stuff I've used that was not so safe because I didn't do my research, like accidentally had an aluminum coat hanger, which can leave residue in your body. You want a stainless steel coat hanger, a variety of things like that he was like, okay, we're going to do this, and this differently, and it immensely helped me. So at first he was really scared, nervous, and off guard and thought it was a phase. And then when he saw it wasn't going away, he's like, okay, I'm going to help you. And now my dad's my biggest fan.
Have you ever considered writing a book?
I want to.
About like what to avoid, how to build up to this kind of stuff, because talking to you, I'm learning that you learned all this stuff the hard way.
Oh yeah.
And even though it's few and far between the people that want to do that, there are people, I'm sure, that want to do what you're doing and look up to you. Is that something you would do, is write a book?
Yeah, I really want to write a book about my life. I want to write, what is it called? Autobiography, or have somebody help me ghostwrite an autobiography. That's where I want to start. And then I have a collection of different photographs and poetry and writing that I want to create into a book called Ink and Ivory. But yeah, that's all stuff I've done. It's kind of hard to do that in the sideshow industry because it can be very controversial. It can bring a lot of heat to your ass. And I'm pretty controversial in sideshow as it is because I didn't ask for permission, and that gets you in trouble apparently. Yeah. It gets you in trouble, and then it gets you hated because you taught yourself the thing that took somebody years to learn, and then they don't like that. I'm just going to leave it at that.
So, is there a lot of like animosity towards other performers?
Oh yeah, absolutely. That's what I experienced 100%. My first experience in posting content online and being a sideshow performer, a self-proclaimed sideshow performer, I had people on the internet that I had never met attacking me because they'd been performing for years, and they're like, "Oh, how dare you do this stunt? This is my stunt." They claim ownership over these things, but the way I look at it is, you have, just like if you had a lyra artist, right? There's many of them all over the world. They're using the same piece of equipment, so who they hang from. But how do they present it is what's different, right? And that's the hard thing about sideshows. So many performers have said, no, this is my stunt, nobody else is allowed to have it. You have to ask permission, basically. Or like in magic, it's like that too. But with sideshow, I've always found the community is really toxic.
What do you think you could do to make it more inviting? Is there anything you can do? Is there, I don't know, I mean, like an outreach? I'm lost for like ideas, but is there something you can do to make people just lighten up and like, because there's
tried.
There's such a small community, right? You would think that, hey, we should stick together. We should start like the Jim Rose Circus. I'm sure you're familiar with that.
Yeah.
I saw that when I was younger.
Yeah.
With Marilyn Manson and Nine Inch Nails. That was the first exposure to something like that.
Yeah.
But it was cool that there was Mr. Lifto and all these other people, and it was like it was like going to see like a mini concert in the concert.
Oh yeah.
Was attaching those nipple rings
very tricky, because should he any motion the wrong way could cause tremendous damage. This is not a trick, this is real. A Guinness qualification is a record.
Clock starts now.
So have you seen the Circus of Scars documentary?
I have not.
Okay. Definitely watch that. Gives you a lot of insight of how much toxicity went on behind the scenes. That's exactly why the documentary was made. I love the Jim Rose Circus Sideshow too. No disrespect to any of those guys. I've even worked with Lipto. But it just goes to show there is a lot of toxicity when it comes to sideshow performers. Don't know if it's the type of people, the heritage, whatever. That's something I've never associated with. Personally, I've always tried to make it more lighthearted. I've tried to make it more competitive to where we're like trying to one-up each other in positive, self-evolving ways, I guess is the way to put it. Like when I worked with Cirque du Soleil, me and Andrew Stanton, I would go to the gym. I'd be like, dude, I just did sword swallowing pull-ups. And I'd show him a video. And then he'd come back and he'd be like, dude, I just did sword swallowing pull-ups while I suck at lifting. And I'm like, look at you. You just that's awesome. And so we would one-up each other like that. But I found a lot of sideshow performers get intimidated by that. I don't know why. I literally cannot give you an answer why, because it is just so... they feel like something's being stolen from them. And I understand that to an aspect, but you can't apply that to everything. There's got to be this camaraderie. There's got to be this wall that you let down and let somebody in to get to know them and share ideas instead of just casting them out because you own this thing. It's always been so controversial. I have tried to be the person that makes it lighthearted. I encourage other people to teach themselves stunts on their own, as long as it is in a safe and productive manner that allows you to be your own creative self, not directly steal and rip off somebody's presentation of an act, their costume, their verbiage, and stuff like that. If you can be original in those ways and create a character out of yourself and differentiate how you do that stunt, then that's all that matters at the end of the day. And a lot of other older sideshow performers aren't like that.
I'm just thinking maybe they feel like they're an outcast and the only thing they have is that identity. And when someone else has also got that identity, they don't know how to respond to it because they've pushed themselves maybe into a corner. This is the only thing I got. And then someone like you comes along and also has that, then it feels like they're less of a person. I don't know.
I don't know. That's something I've never had an answer for personally in my career as a performer. And I've had a lot of people try to ruin my career. I've had a lot of people talk negatively about me and spread rumors and all of these different things. And I've never even met some of these people. I've never even met or worked with them. And I've even lost friends that said, oh, you better stop doing this or we can't be friends anymore. And it's like, so you just want me to stifle my own life as an individual just because you feel this certain way about this thing? That's insane to me. I don't know. That seems toxic in the end of the day. I don't know. It's weird.
It is very weird. I would hope that everybody can get along and stick together and make like a whole like new type of Cirque du Soleil.
Why? This is my thing. Why aren't there the sword swallowing Olympics by now? This is a dangerous art form that, applied in the right ways, could be its own thing. They're doing slap fights now, for Christ's sake, if you think about it. Why is there not sword-swallowing Olympics? Why aren't all these people... you know what I'm saying? Why isn't there this sideshow-esque? There's suspension conventions. There's all these other things, but why can't we make sideshow community to where everyone's competitive in nature and lifts each other up instead of is a hateful competitive nature? I don't know.
Yeah, there's enough. I mean, especially with the internet, there's enough to go around. I mean, just because one person gets 1 million views doesn't mean that other person's not going to get 1 million views.
Well, and the type of gigs that are out there too. There's enough gigs for everybody to go around. It just depends on how the economy's flowing and what suits that gig's needs at the end of the day, right?
Yeah, if there's 1 million people that like what performer X is doing in that vein, then there's probably 1 million people, even more, that like what Ozzy's doing, right? So there should be enough to go around, and that's not cool. Yeah. I wish it was different. I'm sure you do too.
Yeah.
So how did AGT come about?
In high school, I just felt so different than a lot of the other people. I'm gonna send a flag, gonna drown him out. And they've tried to fit me into that cookie cutter category of a specific type of performer. So after the pandemic, obviously when I was working for Cirque du Soleil, that job ended because of the pandemic, sadly. And then pandemics were really weird. After the pandemic, I went on tour with Hellzapoppin'. We were actually the first touring group to hit any type of venue out there. We beat all the musicians, we beat all the other performers. We were literally the first people out there doing live events. So when I was doing that, it was like around Blue Ridge Rock Fest, so September of 2021. AGT was reaching out to me. They had found me on just social media, and they were hitting me up constantly to come and be on the show. And then I was unable to make the dates because of being on tour. They were like, we got this week open, man. Can you come? Can you do this? I was like, this is my week off. No, I don't want to perform. I've been doing shows day after day, 7 days a week sometimes. No. So then 2022 came around, and I didn't go back on tour with Hellzapoppin', and so they had reached out in January, and they're like, hey, we want to have you on the season. So it all just happened like that. Any Got Talent show I've actually done has reached out to me to perform onto them.
Oh my God! Wow!
What's your name?
My name's Auzzy Blood.
Really?
Yeah.
Are you from Australia?
No, I'm not from Australia. I'm from Las Vegas.
Oh. Tell me about you. You look very interesting, Ozzy.
Well, thanks. That means a lot. I'm a sideshow freak.
Good.
I basically like to endanger my life for other people's entertainment, to show other people you can truly accomplish anything you put your mind to.
So how the process goes, it's a really lengthy and somewhat ridiculous process, but I get it because there's so many people, so many cooks in the kitchen, so to speak. Basically, it starts off with you proposing different ideas of how you want the performance to go. With your audition, you only have 2 minutes. You got to keep it short, sweet, and really make an impact with what you're doing with that 2 minutes. Once they approve what you're doing, they decide on music, and then you kind of take performance videos or like rehearsal videos in your own space of what you're going to do, showing them. They critique it, and then from there, if you're approved to the audition and to get filmed, there's not 100% chance you're going to make it onto the television show. But once you're to that process and they've approved your act, you go down to Pasadena, California. You film for 2 days, all the interview stuff and the behind the scenes, the BTS stuff, and then B-roll stuff, and then you do the actual performance in front of a live audience. That's the audition. You get your whatever yeses and reactions, which even if you get up to 3 yeses, you're still not guaranteed to go through the next round. There's only a 34 to like 40% chance to get chosen, depending on the judges' choices of who all they want to make go to the live shows.
How much of it is honest reactions and how much of it is TV for TV?
So I would say with all of the interview stuff that I went through, a lot of that is TV for TV. A lot of the, like, when they did my interview, we sat there for like half an hour or longer going through, like you and I, just a variety of different questions. They really are specific in how you want them to present the answering of the question. And then from there, depending on how your interview goes and how much gets featured, mine only had literally like 2 seconds of it featured. They featured one cut out of it, which was like, I'm happy I can be myself at AGT, and then basically something like that. And then the process of, what was the other part of the question? I'm sorry.
Was it like the judges' reactions?
So
TV for TV?
the entire performance is as genuine as it goes, I say, depending on what happens on stage, because it is all a live reaction of the talking back and forth. There was some stuff they cut out, like when I was about to go on stage with Terry talking to Terry Crews. He was like, "Oh, are you really? What's going on? What's going through your head, Ozzy? Are you nervous?" I'm like, "Actually, I had this plan because it's Terry Crews. I wanted to sing the song from White Chicks with him just to catch him off guard." And that was the whole approach I was taking with the AGT thing at the time. So right before I went out on stage, I was like, "I don't know, Terry, I'm really nervous. How about we sing? How about we sing for a second?" And he's like, "Oh, okay, man, okay." Really caught off guard, especially the way I looked. You could tell he was already nervous. And then so I started singing, "Making my way downtown." Well, and he just jumps in and out of nowhere, the biggest smile on his face, and he's laughing. By the time we had finished some of the lyrics, he's like, "I don't know if we can put that in, man. I don't know if the copyright's going to clear that, but get out there, do your thing." And then, sent me out on stage, and yeah. So they didn't use a lot of that. And then there's certain back and forth I had with Simon where he actually called me annoying at first. They didn't use any of that. They made it seem like Simon said yes, but he didn't say yes. So it's this very intrinsic of, like, they're going to play it up to how they want to play it up. It is 100% television at the end of the day. There's that reality television aspect to it, to where they're setting certain things to look a certain way, even though it's not like that. So yeah, I've experienced that, especially full circle. Now Simon likes me after I've done Britain's Got Talent, and he's given me 2 standing ovations. So it's 100% weirdly full circle.
So you did the America's Got Talent, and you didn't make the cut all the way, or?
So I got approved. I got 3 yeses. I was up for consideration to be moved on to the live shows. And then because of my controversial nature of my act, instead of putting me through to the live shows, they put me up with a save, whatever it is, like a vote, basically, for the audience to say, here's this guy, this guy, this guy, and this guy. They all did different things. I think 2 of them were singers, 1 was a comedian, and then there was me, and the comedian got the vote. So it just goes to show I'm a little too intense for national television. But so since I didn't make the cut, it just kind of, that's it for me. I move on with my life, and there's no more part of that competition.
So then they call you back for the other 2, the Britain's Got Talent?
So how that kind of worked is after getting my debut with America's Got Talent, I have my real phone number out on the internet. That's how people contact me. That's how I get work randomly. It's on social media and stuff like that. If you want to harass me, there you go. Just kidding. So I've had a lot of them just cold call me or cold message me off of WhatsApp. I'll get a random WhatsApp message from an unknown number, and it'll say, "Hey, is this so-and-so, or is this Auzzy Blood? I work with so-and-so for this company. We were considering you for this season of whatever show it is." And that's kind of how it works. That's literally how I've gotten all of the television work that I've been featured in. Whether it's the Guinness World Records one, which there's actually a really funny story with that, to any of the other Got Talents I've done.
So let's touch on the Guinness Book of World Records. What records do you hold?
So I have 3 Guinness World Records. 1 was broken here in Las Vegas. They wanted me to break a record before I came onto the show. So the first record I broke officially was the most weight lifted and held while sword swallowing using a functional weight trainer. So if you actually, it's right there on the wall. You can read 29 or 20, what does it say, 28? That top one there.
29.48 kilograms, 65 pounds.
Yeah, so 65 pounds was attached to my sword from a functional weight trainer that I had lifted and had to hold on my body for 10 seconds. And then the other 2 records I have, I broke in Milan, Italy on the Guinness World Record TV show. The first one was the highest body weight pull using a hook inserted into the skull or the nostril, which I lifted myself 4.5 meters, or it's like 14 feet, something like that, in the air. So I inserted the hook in my skull on a 1-to-1 pulley and just climbed the rope. So I'm lifting my body with the own rope I'm climbing. So half of the weight's on my face and then half of the weight's on my arms. And that's a record I set. And then the other one was another sword swallowing weightlifting record, to where I did 9 squats in 1 minute while holding 44 pounds down my throat. Which is actually, here's the bar that attaches to my sword. So it goes like this. You insert it, you make sure it's level. This is a little chin holster, right? And so I swallow the sword like this, and then I can attach whatever I want to it, or have it hanging from something as an aerial device. Crazy, right?
Have you ever gotten in an oh shit moment where it's like, oh, I can't. Do you have spotters?
So I've never had a spotter. I've had people watch just as safety in case they need to call 911. But I actually came up with a very critical way of keeping myself safe when it came to training with the weightlifting, because most of the time I had to go by myself, and I used the apartment complex gym here. So what I would do is, how I have to set the height for the functional weight trainer, I have to set it to a very specific height. So when I have the bar fully extended and like above my head, but there's no weight on the cable tension yet, I have to hold it at a certain position to where I know I can lower it all the way down and swallow it, right? And I have to do that at a very specific angle, because I literally have to go like this. And then once it's in that level I set it to, I know that I can set that all the way down and it not have any weight on that bar and still be able to pull it out of my throat, right? So there was one time I was lifting, I think it was 68, or no, what is it, 65, 67 pounds. It was like 2 added pounds extra on top. It was almost too much, and this is when I was in my beginning stages of training. I tried to lift it, started to get up and couldn't maintain and couldn't hold it, and then I literally just had to go down, and then I had to export out of the sword and like maneuver all the way down to get all the weight off, and it was a close call. I actually had that on video too. So
maybe you can send that to me and we'll put it in.
Yeah, gladly.
So people can see it.
Oh yeah. Not ready for 65. I just want to say the reason I kept that clip is to show you guys it is important, so important to risk assess and have a way out. I planned to have my weight heights set at the height they're set because it gives me enough space in case something goes wrong to drop down to the ground and get out of the maneuver safely. I knew because of fatigue after trying that a few times, I wasn't able to get that all the way up safely. So the moment I felt that, I exited the situation safely, because if I continued on, I would have been injured. Risk assessment and approach is important, especially when you got a sword down your throat and you're combining it with weightlifting. Anything you do with Sideshow, risk assess, analyze all details logically, not emotionally, logically. When you do this, you can figure out ways at really sticky situations that keep you from going to the hospital, like that one. It's intense. There was actually one time I didn't realize there was the extra weight on one side of the weight trainer, because they've got the 2 separate weight racks for the sides of the cables. And so in the video I took at the time, because I started documenting all of my training, you can see one side's like uneven and is having a harder time staying up. And then I go to check it later and I'm like, oh my gosh, there was the extra weight on there, and there was 2 extra pounds that I didn't realize was there. Could have caused a lot of problems, because obviously when that bar's inside of me, anything here, wiggling here, that's not good for my organs.
No. I mean, it's already
not good for my organs, but let's just add an implied danger of a pivot point for an entire metal blade inside of my body, you know.
Are you concerned about long-term health effects of this?
So being that I'm in my first decade of performing and I've been pretty intense throughout a lot of my career, I was concerned in the beginning, but now I can say I'm 30. Woo, over the hill for the first half of my life, I guess. I still feel like I'm 16 in my head, though. But I'm not really concerned as long as I think I can keep taking care of myself. I do yoga, I exercise, I do as much as I can to stay mobile with all of my body. So I think if I keep on that track, I'll stay healthy. I try to look at it as like, what does a bodybuilder do? He's lifting weight. I'm just inserting things into my body, so as long as I don't perforate my esophagus, tear any cartilage in my face, tear my soft palate where my uvula hangs down, long term I think I'll be okay, honestly. I've pierced my body. Am I in the thousands now? I don't know. I could be in the thousands now of how many times I've pierced my forearm, bicep, and jaw. So, yeah.
How did you start doing that?
Doing the piercings?
Yeah, you stick a pick through your bicep.
Well, it's not a pick. It's a 16 gauge needle that's homemade. It looks like a pick, but it's a 16 gauge needles when you think about it medically. So obviously, when in school to be a certified medical assistant, we had to do injections and blood draws on each other, and I was always the guinea pig. Especially, I'm very vascular, so like right now, you can't see too much of it, but normally when my veins are nice and plump, all I got to do is put a tourniquet on, and they pop like crazy. So I was always the guinea pig in school, to where the teacher's like, use Auzzy. He's got veins you can drive a truck through, is what she always say. So I would just always take the injections and whatever practice anybody needed. I even got 2 glute shots at the same time. Yeah. So experiencing that in school, didn't have fear of needles. I was like, well, human pincushion. It's a very well-renowned sideshow stunt. Might as well do it. Started off with small hypodermic needles in the face, small injection needles in the face, and then it got to the point where I got these big spinal tap needles. And that's when I first started practicing the jaw, because there's people like Zamora the Torture King, who I've always admired and looked up to. And, he's one of the main guys that have done through the jaw. There's other performers that do it, like Eric Ross. But, I just wanted to say, what the hell? Why not? See how far I can push myself. So it was probably like 2015 I started doing that. And then when I went on tour with Hellzapoppin', the governor asked if I could do the fakir stunt, which in ancient India, it's known as a fakir stunt, where you're taking the large needles and piercing through your body. So he asked, and I taught myself in 2 weeks. Made the skewers and everything.
Was there an oh shit moment, like this is really happening, or you're at this point you just know what you're capable of?
I'm just always pushing myself, so I know what I'm capable of. I know if I have a certain type of feeling, there's like a certain type of feeling I've developed. I can't describe it other than like an intuitive, no, I shouldn't do this moment. That I've just always been able to push myself. It's always been, how far can I take this? How far can I take this? And I haven't found a limit yet. I literally have not found a limit yet. And right now I'm at a period to where I'm starting to, I'm so comfortable in where I'm at in my life. I'm able to explore all these different things, like taking a break from performing as much so I can save some money to move into a house and focus on developing other acts and working and training. And then, I'm just always trying to find my limits.
Are you worried that you're going to push it too far?
Always. The thought that goes through my head at least once a week, I would say, is, am I going to die from some natural thing like a heart attack, stroke, getting hit by a drunk driver, or am I going to die by my own hand of the stunt going too far? It's something I consider weekly, especially how much that would affect, reputation after death. I could care less about what people think about me, but obviously, if you're a stunt performer, the funniest quote I actually saw recently was, a stunt performer that does his job well, everyone applauds and renounce. This even goes to stunt actors in movies, right? A stunt performer that has had an accident or hurt himself is considered a failure and somebody who should not be trusted with their own life. Crazy, right?
Yeah.
Of how people think about that. It's like one wrong mistake and everyone thinks you're awful at what you do just because one thing went wrong. So I hope I don't die by my own hand. I hope I can go out in the quiet of my sleep, maybe, but there's always that off chance. It's not if, it's when. And is the when going to be too far? It's unpredictable. Something I don't try to think about too often, and I just try to set my intentions of something I actually recite to myself, and this may sound stupid or egotistical, but I really believe in manifestation. So something I tell myself before shows is, you are indestructible. I literally tell myself that. As crazy as it sounds, I'm not indestructible. If I get hit by a car, if something goes through if my heart stops from getting pierced by a giant metal spike, I'm gonna die. I'm not indestructible. But that's something I reinforce in my mental thoughts daily. It's almost like what's the word I'm looking for? A mantra I envelop of, I am indestructible, and I don't know whether it's working or not, but it's gotten me this far.
Yeah, you have to have that self-belief if you're doing what you're doing. Yeah. Because if you think, oh, I'm going to fuck up, you're going to fuck up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can attest to that, too. There's times I've been nervous about something and been like, I've literally thought about something happening in a negative way, or like this little fumble of a mistake or clumsy accident of me slipping or something, and it happens. It happens. It's almost guaranteed 9 times out of 10. So I keep my mind as clear as possible. I think those things of, you're here to accomplish this is what you're doing, task-based and associative mental association, and that's that.
Wow. Yeah. Have you considered that maybe your mental toughness is something that you could, I mean, I'm not saying you should, but like maybe like ultra marathons and all that stuff?
I've thought about that, but I think I'm in my own league of ultra marathon. The funny thing is, I hate running. I hate running for the life of me. I would do anything to not run. It's one of the least fun cardiac exercises I want to involve myself in. So I've thought about doing stuff like that, but I think I'm just pushing myself on my own unique triathlon marathon level. Like, the other goals I have is to set other world records. How far can I ride a bike with a sword in me? Because I can ride my one wheel while sword swallowing. I'm probably the only person in the world that's ever done that. So, yeah, to answer your question, I think I'm just inventing my own league of marathons where I'm just pushing myself in my own way that nobody else is going to match. Why I'm like that? I don't know. I just like to be unique, I guess.
I agree. You said that you're doing routines down in the gym. Is there other stuff you do in the gym to keep fit for what you're doing?
Yeah.
What is your workout regimen like?
So a lot of weightlifting. I mostly focus on upper body strength and abdominal strength and core strength, mainly because when I worked with Cirque du Soleil, they gave me a really good regimen of how to properly condition your body and maintain the mobility you need in all your joints and muscles to stay fluid and functional. The biggest thing we lose is our mobility, and that's being able to squat down, bend over, and do all those things. So I think that's what I focus on most, especially with yoga. Yoga is the best thing I discovered in my life. Having a messed up back, I actually have a curved spine, slightly to the left, which I found out as an adult. And so I went to the chiropractor to get adjusted. He took an x-ray, said, you got a curved spine. He said, you may need surgery later on in life. And I said, oh, hell no, I'm never getting surgery. What can I do to combat this? And he said, do yoga, stretch, exercise properly. And so ever since that, it was like, okay, I need to condition myself. And that was even before I was a performer. It just added in when I was a performer that this is something you need to do if you want to keep doing what you're doing.
Is there a certain type of yoga you do?
I seriously, what I watch is I look up yoga with Adrienne on YouTube and I watch her videos. Best thing I ever discovered. It's at home, it's easy. I'll do other stuff that's more intense practices with friends, and I've gone to like public classes, but I love the fact that I can literally just turn my TV on, load up a yoga with Adrienne video, and go to town. Simple, right. As easy as fun.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. What do you do to keep mobile?
Yeah. Yoga. Yoga is the best life-changing thing. I suggest everybody stretch, everybody have some sort of mobility exercise that they do, because it's going to keep you healthier and sharper long-term for the rest of your life.
What do people get wrong about you? I mean, let's be honest. You're wearing makeup.
Oh, yeah.
You swallow swords. You got tattoos. You do some crazy stunts. What do people get wrong about you, and what would people be shocked to find out about you?
So people get wrong all the time that they think I'm intimidating. They think again, it's an outside perspective. You're going to judge a book by a cover. They think I'm going to be like this satanic, devil-worshipping, person that just is the worst of intentions, and as you can see from talking to me, I'm a goofball. I'm just a weird guy that grew up loving Jim Carrey, grew up as a theater kid, and I've compiled it into my love and association with rock and metal culture and gothic culture, because I don't consider myself any one genre of those things. I like to think I'm just kind of blanketed by the spectrum of it all, because it all connects in different ways because of whatever subjective experience that led that individual to liking that thing and dressing. I could go on and on. But yeah, for me, it's about just trying to maintain that connection to everything and anything. And the weirdness of what most people don't know is that I'm just a very deep person. I just love depth in everything. That's why I ramble so much, is because my mind attaches to subjective association. A lot of the things I have in this apartment around us, I don't have because I bought it just because I liked it. There is some core memory connected to those things, and most people don't realize that about me, that I look for depth in everything. I'm an overly observant person that just tries to find depth in anything and everything, and that's not something most people wouldn't expect. They think I'm just a crazy person that loves to shove things into my body for attention. And I don't do it for the attention. I do it to push myself. I do it because if I can teach myself to swallow a sword in 10 months, what can you do with your time? What fear are you being held back by? What thing do you want to accomplish in life that's not accomplishable? What is stopping you? Figure out all those things, critically assess what's stopping you, find what you love, and do it.
I think you've carved out something that most people strive to have. You know, most people are like, well, I gotta work a 9 to 5. I gotta climb up the corporate ladder, get the huge house, the nice car. Those are nice, but you also have to have self-satisfaction of what makes me happy. And if I can make a living at it, that sounds like the dream job.
Yeah.
Is that how you feel?
Oh, 100%. That's the biggest thing my dad instilled in me as a kid is do something you love. Do something that makes you happy. Do something that doesn't feel like work. And that's the hard thing I dealt with as a child, is because everything felt like work. I still watch cartoons to this day because I have trouble connecting with like actual television because of just how forced of a perspective it feels. There's certain things, but yeah, everybody should be following a passion, should be doing something. I think people become so numb to this world. They become so numb and buried in by how other people view them. They become so numb to living a certain expectation of life, like again, getting married, having kids, 9 to 5, that's it. You do that, you make a lot of money, you buy nice things, you have kids, you retire, you die. That's it. Instead of, what is the core thing we go to our grave with? It's our memories. So if you can create memories for yourself by doing something you love and also inspire others to do that same thing, you're creating a butterfly effect there that's creating the world to be a better place. It sounds stupid and la la gaga, whatever you want to woo-woo, new-woo, hippie age stuff, but it is not. It is the pure foundation of existing with contraspection to an observable objective world. Having your own subjectivity and having that individuality of how something feels to you and how that experiences changes your association with everything objective of you. People don't think that deep. People don't literally consider that. They do things because other people do things. People get stuck in that framework, and that's why they live horrible lives, because they don't live for themselves. They don't live for their pure intent of happiness and the highest excitement they can find. They live to survive. They're surviving experience to experience, glossing over these feelings they think are really deep and depthful, but they haven't even begun to open Pandora's box, in my opinion. Maybe that's because I have an ego. Maybe that's because I have a certain way of thinking. Maybe it's the autism in my brain. I don't know. But it's just how I see life.
What do you do in your free time?
I paint, do anything creative that I can. It's funny because now that I'm like a self-employed performer, my free time is also my work time, if that makes sense. So like with social media and stuff, I'm not on social media to scroll and watch other stuff. I'm on social media to strategize and like, okay, what's the best way I can get my content out there, the outreach, because not because I want it to be seen, but because I want it to affect other people. If I post content in singularity, then that's good. It's going to grow. But is that the core of me, my free time? No. It's something that I do when I have free time. I love metalworking. I'm just this weird guy that just wants to create stuff all the time. So whether it's hiking, going out and stacking rocks, that's a creative, fun, free time exercise for me. Yeah. I don't know. I'm introverted. It's weird to hard to define what my free time is because I have this drive to be productive all the time. So I guess free time is also watching cartoons, watching weird television shows. Yeah.
So you've, according to your social media, which is I'm sure true, you started working at the Haunted Mansion, is that correct?
Yeah, Zak Bagans Haunted Museum here in Las Vegas.
And what's that like?
Oh my gosh, it's a beautiful experience. If you've never been in the Haunted Museum, I can't describe it other than you're just transported in this world of historical, creepy history. I don't know. All this stuff associated with murders and killings and all this, the dark parts of life that everyone's afraid to experience, and the stuff that I love, it's all there under one roof. If you've ever heard of the Museum of Death out in Hollywood or New Orleans, it's very similar to that, but there's more of an immersive thing to it. Hello, Juniper. Yeah, there's more immersivity because of all the stuff Zak's acquired throughout his entire career. It's a beautiful place to work. I honestly love working there. And I just started working there this year because gigs for me back in February and March were starting to slow down. So I wanted to find something to fill my time with. And I accidentally just was scrolling on Facebook, looking through different media groups, and had found an ad for them looking for a scare actor. And I used to work as a scare actor at Freakling Brothers Haunted House. So it was like, oh yeah, this is something I'll do in my time. So when I'm not doing shows, I'm scared.
Have you experienced a lot of hauntings there?
Not too much activity, not as much as I thought I would experience. Little things here and there, like I've experienced the guides go through other stuff, like them seeing apparitions and reacting to it. I've heard all of their stories. I've actually gone home with marks on my neck one night. Not sure if that's from the clothing I was wearing or if it was from something caused in the museum, but there's these 4 distinct marks. It almost looked like somebody was digging their middle finger and their index finger into my neck on both sides like this. And it's just these red triangular shaped marks. I have no idea how they got there. And actually just the other day, I think it was yesterday, there was a girl standing, and as I'm doing my little thing, so sometimes I'm in a very specific area there doing scare work, and sometimes I'm in the sideshow covering for the other sideshow performer. Well, yesterday when I was covering for the other sideshow performer, there was this girl standing there, and she moves like this, and she looks over to her husband who was standing next to her, hadn't touched her, hadn't moved. She's like, stop pulling my hair. Like he was messing with her. And even the guide who was standing behind them over on the stairs was like, no, I saw her hair lift up. I was like, wait, did we just have a real experience in the moment here? Apparently, I didn't see anything happen other than her reactions in the moment, so I can't vouch for anything other than what I saw in their subjective experiences. But yeah, so that's the most of the activity. Other than that, I think like to be on that level of the paranormal, you kind of have to be tuned into it or have that more higher intuitive sense. Maybe it's belief, and I've always been kind of skeptical of the paranormal. So yeah, it's interesting to work in that place because it's unpredictable what's going to happen on a daily basis.
How can people get a hold of you on social media, YouTube? You know, how can they see your content and everything?
So the best way to find me is just Googling my name, Auzzy Blood, and then you'll see all the different resources. I do all the social media types, everything from Facebook, YouTube, to Instagram. The best way is just Googling my name, and you'll find all the videos I make. And if you want to follow along to see all the other crazy stuff, that's up to you, if you can handle it.
I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me. It's been really cool, and I wish you the best.
Yeah, thanks, man. It's been awesome.